Okay, you've seen the headlines, you've definitely heard the buzz. AI agents are supposedly the next big thing. But what are they really? I mean, beyond all the hype, what actually makes an agent different from the AI assistants we're already using every single day? Let's get into it and find out what's really going on. And why should you even care? Well, how about this? The global AI market is on track to be worth almost $300 billion by 2026. This isn't just some niche topic for tech nerds anymore. It's a huge economic shift that's happening right now. And AI agents, they are right at the heart of this massive change. So let's start with the basics. What is an AI agent? At its core, you can think of it as a piece of software that does three key things. First, it can perceive its environment. It takes in information. Second, it makes its own decisions. And third, it takes action to hit a specific goal. The two words you really got to remember here are autonomous and goal-driven.
Now this right here is where most of us get a little mixed up. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, my phone's assistant does that. Well, not exactly. Let's really break down the biggest, most important difference in this whole conversation.
So let's put them side by side. An AI assistant is reactive. It basically just sits there and waits for your command. Hey, set a timer, or what's the weather like? It does exactly what you tell it to do, and that's it. An AI agent, though, is proactive. You give it a big, complicated goal, like, hey, plan a weekend trip for me to a city I've never been to, and it goes to work. It figures out the steps, decides which tools to use, and then actually executes the plan all on its own. It's kind of like the difference between a simple calculator and a full-on personal financial planner.
And you can actually see that difference in how they're built. An assistant follows this really simple one-way street. You give it an input, the language model thinks for a second, and maybe it uses one tool you told it to. But an agent, it operates in this constant loop. It gets a goal, it plans, it uses tools, it remembers what happened, and then it adjusts its plan based on that memory. It's a continuous cycle of thinking and doing.
So what's actually powering this complex loop? What's going on under the hood that gives an agent these crazy new abilities? Let's break down the three essential parts that make an agent, well, an agent.
First up, we've got the planning module. This is basically the agent's strategic brain. If you tell it to organize a company-wide event, it doesn't just crash. The planning module breaks that giant goal down into a bunch of smaller, logical steps. First, find a venue, then check the budgets, then send out invitations, order the food, and so on. It literally creates the roadmap from start to finish.
Next, you have the memory module, and this is what gives the agent context, a sense of what's going on. Short-term memory is like its chat history. It remembers what you were just talking about a second ago. But the long-term memory is more like a personal notebook, remembering things like your favorite airline or that you're a vegetarian. Without memory, every single conversation would have to start completely from scratch.
And finally, we have what might be the most powerful piece of the puzzle, tool integration. This is what gives the agent its hands and feet to interact with the real world. A tool can be anything. A search engine, a flight booking website, your calendar, a company database. Without tools, an agent can only think and talk, but with tools, it can actually do things.
And this diagram really shows that crucial division of labor. The large language model, the LLM, that's the brain. It's doing all the planning and reasoning, figuring out what to do. But the tool layer is the part that actually executes. It's what makes the phone call, or books the flight, or queries the database. This split between thinking and doing is totally fundamental to how these agents work.
Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But let's get real for a second. Building and deploying these agents is definitely not a walk in the park. Like with any powerful new technology, there are some pretty big real-world challenges we have to face.
Developers are running into some major roadblocks. For one, data quality is huge. It's that classic garbage in, garbage out problem. If an agent learns from bad data, it's going to make bad decisions. Then there's the massive challenge of algorithmic bias, where an agent can accidentally learn and even amplify human prejudices that are hidden in its training data. And on top of all that, these things are incredibly complex and expensive to build, and they have to be able to handle tons of requests without crashing.
And this whole bias thing, it isn't just a theory. The source material brings up a really powerful real-world example: early facial recognition systems. It turns out, because they were trained mostly on pictures of people with lighter skin, they were way less accurate at recognizing people with darker skin. It's a perfect and pretty sobering example of how the data you use to build a system has direct, real-world consequences on its fairness and performance.
So, with all of these challenges, how do we actually move forward? How do we build agents that are not only powerful, but also safe and fair and reliable? Well, it all comes down to building in the right guardrails from the very beginning.
So, building these things the right way takes some serious discipline. It all starts with having a super clear objective. You need to know exactly what the agent is supposed to do. Then, that has to be built on top of really high-quality, unbiased data that you're constantly testing for fairness. But even then, for the really important decisions, you absolutely need human oversight, what they call a human in the loop, to make sure there's accountability. And of course, underneath all of it, rock-solid security to protect user data is completely non-negotiable.
All of these best practices really point back to these 5 essential questions that every developer and company is wrestling with right now. Is the agent fair? Is it transparent? Or is it just a black box we can't understand? Who is actually accountable when it messes up? Is our data private and secure? And is this system safe from being misused? These aren't just technical problems, they're huge societal questions we all have to answer to build trust in this tech.
And that leaves us with the million-dollar question at the very heart of all this agent AI stuff. If we successfully create a system that can make its own decisions, who's on the hook when those decisions are wrong? Is it the user who gave the command, the developer who wrote the code, the company that released it, or the agent itself? There is no easy answer here, and it's something we're all going to be grappling with as these systems become a much, much bigger part of our world.